Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching Team APS, Paul here. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my 5 most hated decks right now. And it kind of bleeds into just hated decks in general, but yeah, these are the decks that are not fun to face, for me at least. I feel like everybody has them, and I excluded Trickstars and Gokis because, let's face it, we all hate playing against those decks. But these are decks that just like when I play against them, I get triggered, and so yeah, first deck is True Draco, actually. I don't like this deck, and the reason why it's maybe a surprise is because I actually played True Draco back, like, basically this time last year. It's a cool deck, you know, it's very strong, it does what it does, and I think that Masterpiece going was good, and that's fine, but it just sucks that this deck is still even at all relevant. The way it functions, it bothers me. Like, these spells and trap cards allow them to run Card Demise and Pot of Duality and stuff like that because they aren't special summoning, they're tribute summoning. And then they can tribute summon with these spells and traps. And when they tribute summon with these spells and traps, the spells and traps take a piece of you with them. So it's like really annoying how much advantage they can gain. And now that like Dynamite Knight is back and there's still Ignis Heat, they can keep kind of like flowing these out onto the field, and it gets really annoying, to be honest. And then you combine it with like Dragonic Diagram and stuff, and like now you have to face like 2800 Dynamite Knight that can't die in battle one time, and your cards are getting popped all the time, and the traps are chainable in your turn, so that's even worse. But this would all be okay if it weren't for the Monarch's Erupt. The Monarch's Erupt is just actually the worst card for me, because it's just a better skill drain. It still, you know, allows them to use their effects, and it's just such a tough card to get around. I actually hate it. I feel like this deck, you know, it's tame. I'm not complaining that it's like overpowered. It's just annoying for me to face personally because it feels like you're always kind of walking on eggshells. Whenever you try to make a play, you have to beware of like a trap coming out of nowhere and then ruining your day because the trap pops your monster, which cuts your combo out or whatever. Same with spells and traps and like Heritage and Draco Phoenix or whatever, Disciples. And then there's also the fact that, and this I hate this, even on like online, they always chain to everything you do. So whenever you're playing your turn, you're like, okay, I activate this. Wait, chain Dynamite Knight, or Ignis Heat, or Majesty Maiden. It's like, come on. As if your deck wasn't already really good, the fact that you chain to every single thing that like your opponent does, it's even worse when like there's 2 of them, because it's like, ugh. I don't know. That's my gripe with these. On the other hand though, I mean, this deck is honestly far better than it was with Masterpiece around. Trust me, I hated that card more. But I really hate the way this deck kind of feels to play against, so takes my number 5 spot. Deck number 4, Darklaw Turbo. I have hated this deck since its inception. I do not like Darklaw. I do not like Floodgate boss monsters. I much prefer boss monsters that can protect themselves, or boss monsters that have a negation. But Floodgate bosses are so annoying, and Darklaw is one of the worst. Because Macrocosmos is limited for a reason. It's a trap and it's not searchable and all that stuff, and it's still really strong. Darklaw is pretty easy to get out fast, and when you get it out, it's like, I can't do anything sometimes. I mean, some dice can play around Darklaw, but some can't. The worst part though is that they can chain the summoning, whatever they use to summon it, usually Mask Change 2 or whatever, they can chain that to a search card, like, you know, Pot of anything. And then Darklaw comes out and then also uses its effect to rip a card out of your hand, and that gets banished, and it's like, so while Darklaw's out, it's not only functioning as a Macrocosmos, it's actually functioning as like a sort of pseudo mistake type of card, where if you do search anything into your hand, one of those cards is going to get banished every turn, and it just makes it really hard to play against. Now granted, I don't, you know, have too strong of feelings about this deck right now because it's technically not among the competitive decks. Master Rule 4 obviously hurt the deck a lot, so you don't see it very often. But it's for me personally when I do face this card or these decks, but it's really just Darklaw Turbo. Deck 3, Herald of Perfection. So as I said with Darklaw, I would prefer boss monsters that can just negate stuff. They're okay. But then there's Herald of Perfection, who can negate multiple things. That's problematic for me. Because Herald of Perfection is, you know, it's a pretty balanced card. Like most of the decks on this list, you don't really see the deck anymore. But when you play it with like Cyber Angels and Christia and stuff, the deck is actually still pretty well functioning. Because the Cyber Angels, like, you know, Benten and Edidin will recur advantage, and obviously there's like Dawn of the Herald and all that stuff. So the deck can actually keep fairies in its hand really easily compared to like what it couldn't do before. and that gets annoying fast. Because, you know, normally with something like Tri-Gate Wizard, you're expected to just bait out the negation. You play your weaker cards, you hope to find a situation where you can kind of trap your opponent where they have to negate the card. But Herald of Perfection doesn't really work that way because you generally can't like really trick it. They'll just negate everything. Now, granted, if you can track your opponent's fairies they have in their hand, this card's easier to deal with and it's not always that consistent. But like if they have like 3 or more fairies in hand, it gets really annoying then. And, you know, that's if they don't already have some buff on it. I know a couple of cards can increase its defense and stuff like that. I remember this deck used to use Fairy Cheer Girl, which was annoying because it boosted, like, their attack and defense by 400. Oh, God. So, yeah, I don't really like facing Herald of Perfection. I'm glad no one plays it, but I've never liked facing it, and I still don't, and I probably never will. So, yeah. Next, Paleozoics. So I didn't include Altergeist in this list. I felt like they're new and stuff, and everybody kind of doesn't like facing them. Paleozoics, though, are a deck that's stuck around for a long time, and it's just trap.deck, like actually trap.deck. The monsters are traps. The traps are traps. They don't run that many spells, so basically, you know, you just kind of end up facing a lot of traps. And the hardest part about facing Paleozoics is not knowing what's a paleo versus what's just, you know, an annoying regular trap. This deck gets actively rewarded for just playing Floodgate cards. It's kind of like how Altergeist Multifaker works. Activating Floodgates, activating things like Anti-Spell Fragrance and, you know, Rivalry and stuff like that, Goes and Match, is just straight up rewarded because, you know, your opponent is going to get to chain their Paleos. It's very annoying. And this would all be like alright, you know, you could tolerate it, but then you also add the frogs into the mix, namely Swamp Frog, and things get really bad because now it's like, you know, totally awesome on top of these paleo monsters that just are, you know, picking apart your field, right, you know, banishing things, and Floodgates, and then Totally Awesome's there, and then you add in anything else that kind of gets put in the equation. It might be Proxy Dragon or whatever, the Starboy, and this begins to get it gets really tough to get around these fields. So I don't like this deck, and it just so happens that every paleo player I face tends to like also slow play. That really bothers me. Like they always just seem to like take their sweet time reading every single trap they have set to make sure they don't have anything to respond to you. That stuff gets really annoying. So yeah, I don't like facing Paleozoics. I know that it is a trap deck, so those are inherently going to be a little bit weaker in like the long haul of things. But on a like, you know, in a vacuum, facing this deck can get really annoying really fast. And number 1 for me right now is Inspector Border Stun. I guess that's what I'm going to call it. I mean, technically speaking, this could be any number of other things. You know, there's Fossil Dino Stun or Statue Barrier, whatever stun. Either way, all these decks are annoying because it's just a bunch of traps, you know, and then Floodgatey monsters. Obviously, like with Dark Law, I don't like Floodgate monsters. I don't like facing Thunder King. I don't like facing Inspector Border. I don't like facing Fossil Dino. No one really does. And of course, they still get the benefits of running Card of Demise and just the whole gauntlet of traps. It's just kind of whatever they want to run. These decks are just, I feel like people who play these decks, man, it reeks of, I don't really know. Like maybe they don't enjoy actually playing Yu-Gi-Oh either. Because I mean, like when you use these cards, your opponent can't play, but also like you're not getting a very active role in playing. You're just, you know, Fossil Dino's there and he's attacking and you have traps set. Your opponent's not playing. It's like, I don't know, are you really playing Yu-Gi-Oh? It's like borderline better than I guess the whole Goki crazy, you know, extra link, invincible, unbreakable board. But not much better. So I don't like facing these decks. I even played this deck actually, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I could take this to locals or regionals and probably do well and ruin some people's day. But then I realized I don't really enjoy it. It's just, it's boring, it's bland, it gets old fast. So, nah. And those are the 5 decks that are most annoying for me to face right now. It kind of changes, it fluctuates. There's always decks I don't like to deal with really. These are just kind of the current ones, just a mix. But anyway, I want to hear from you guys. Which decks do you not like facing right now? What are the most annoying Yu-Gi-Oh decks for you? Besides the obvious, you know, like Trickstars suck. So I'd like to hear it down in the comments. Alright, it's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next video.